Hey, how are you doing? This is Neil Battaglia from saxstation.com. If you haven't been there already, head over to saxstation.com, go to the side of the website and enter your name and email address. Get updates, lessons, be able to connect with other saxophone players, be able to ask me some questions. This lesson is more about the timing on saxophone. And the most obvious component of the timing is your fingers, but it also has to do with your airstream. It also has to do with the air moving through the saxophone. And there are a few other things you want to maybe think about when you're playing. But horn players in general tend to be a little bit late, and there's a reason for that. And part of that I'm going to explain in an analogy that I learned from Gary Meek, one of my teachers, and he learned it from the great drummer Airstream from Brazil. So light travels very, very quickly. It travels at about 3 times 100 million meters per second. It travels so fast that it takes light about 8 minutes and 19 seconds to go from the sun to the earth. So for all intents and purposes, it's pretty much instantaneous. Sound also travels pretty quickly in air. It travels at about 340 meters per second at sea level, and through different materials it travels at different speeds. So it's pretty quick, but it's definitely slower than light. So you probably know that lightning, you'll see it before you hear it, because the light travels faster than the sound. Your airstream, which you put into the saxophone, which vibrates the reed and then goes through the tube of the saxophone to make the sound of the music that you're playing, travels even slower than the speed of sound in air. And on top of that, you have to deal with your finger speed, how quickly they go onto the pearls of the keys. And you can make this faster by decreasing the distance between the keys and your fingers, which I recommend, but still, they're not moving that quickly. So you're doing several different things just to get a sound on the saxophone. You're using your fingers, you're using your diaphragm and lungs, you're using your tongue to start and stop the airstream. And also, the airstream has to go from the tip of the mouthpiece through the entire horn, and that's some distance that you need to account for when you're playing. So the overall effect is that horn players tend to come in a little bit late, unless they account for all these factors. The analogy that Airta told Gary was that the sound that a horn player puts out is somewhat like a shaker, because when you have a shaker and you move it, the sound doesn't come instantly. The beads have to travel from one end of the shaker to the other one. So when you start the movement and when you end the movement, there's some amount of time involved in getting the sound to be produced. The fingers are a huge factor in getting the sound to come out right. You have to align it with your tongue and with your airstream. But if you work on your fingers, that's going to actually solve a lot of problems, because your fingers should be really what's controlling the changes in the airstream. Getting your fingers directly on the pearls of the saxophone key is going to decrease the distance that they need to travel, so it's going to enable you to move less distance with more grace and more speed and accuracy. So it's a great thing to work on. It's going to improve a lot of different dimensions of your saxophone playing. You're going to need to synchronize your fingers with your airstream and your tongue so they're all lined up, because if one thing is misaligned, then it's not going to quite work. If you slow down and really focus on what you're doing, you're going to probably find these things that you need to work on with your fingers, your airstream, your tongue, all these things working together. And if you record yourself, you can also hear that. But it's a lot of different factors, and sometimes you'll find that you even need to put your fingers down before you think you should to actually get the timing right.